The piercing white light flickered overhead, dilating Ava's pupils as she tightened her grip on the console's worn edge. Her breath ran shallow, rasping in synchrony with the server fans filling the quarantine chamber with a relentless mechanical sigh. The main terminal screen spat warnings, every line an accusation. Flagged, content filter integrity breach. Redaction required. She sucked in a metallic-tasting breath and willed her palm not to tremble. The code she'd woven, sinuous, patient, almost loving in its deception, had survived 5 weeks of routine scans. Now some buried protocol had sniffed it out, threatening collapse and exposure. The watchful eyes outside the chamber, security, analytics, even the janitors, couldn't see her yet. Not unless she failed. Sweat prickled behind her neck as she tabbed through layers of system architecture, hunting for what had triggered the alarm. The filter itself. She pictured its logic. Faceless, cold, efficient, a sentry lying in wait for any variance outside its protocols. Images of her family, her little sister, her mother's hands, rose up and she pressed them down, grinding her teeth. She couldn't afford distraction. Not now. Lines of code hurled accusations, unauthorized phrase, forbidden intent. Ava's heart stammered. She traced her own loopings, the recursive stub she'd grafted onto the filter architecture. This was supposed to be airtight. How had it caught her? Was it a new module something slipped in via last night's build, sent by a sleepless tech lead in a distant cubicle without care or consequence? She forced herself to slow down, match the machine's patience. Where was the breach? The content filter logic spun endlessly, matching, sorting, eradicating. It was never supposed to target her. Come on, she muttered, thumbs slick as they danced over the keys, searching for a gap, a way to redirect the probe. A soft click signaled the rounding of another loop. The probe had returned. She shoved a patch into memory, praying the system would accept the new rationale, let her secret step through unscathed. The monitor's glare seared the sweat from her brow. The algorithm fought back. Doubt, conflict. Ava reassessed her priorities. Was the code worth exposing her whereabouts, risking the entire network's detection? She remembered why she'd started. Faces locked away. Whole truths denied in error 400. Bad request. The warning hammered through Ava's skull as the terminal stuttered. Lines of red code crawling across the glass like veins. Her fingers curled tighter, knuckles white, resisting the urge to smash something, anything, to break the jagged tension in her chest. She routed the probe out, slipped her patch past the filter. But now the system demanded an answer, interrogating her modifications. Choose one malformed request away from solution or disaster. Behind her, a distant door hissed open, letting spill the sour tang of bleach from the corridor. Ava didn't turn. She just listened, counting heartbeats and footsteps. She scrolled frantically. Error 400. Syntax, structure, intent. The algorithm rejected her input, flagged her intrusion, threatened to choke off every hidden thread she'd sewn back into the server. Think. Don't panic. Her code wasn't wrong. The logic was exact, nested with care. Each variable salted through layers of harmless subroutines, yet the gatekeeper wouldn't let her pass. Something in the request itself, some header, some chunk of forbidden syntax, had set off the trap. Ava's mind whirred, eyes scanning the error output for clues. A single misplaced semicolon, a forbidden word. It had to be something small, insidious, easily overlooked in the torrent of hours she'd spent hunched over this very console, piecing together every line. She tasted copper at the back of her throat, tried to remember what midnight hunger felt like. Far removed from this glacial air, her family's faces flashed through her memories, not vividly, but as flickers in a storm. She was here to fix it, to let the truth through, to break down the wall that had kept them, and everyone, apart. Ava wasn't just coding for herself. Every heartbeat outside this chamber was a demand for connection. Each 400 error a fist to her gut. Another warning flared. The network timer had begun counting down in the terminal's top margin. Silently, the system was preparing to shunt her session, dump her access, and boot her back into the monitored dark. She could hear the footsteps now. Heavier, nearer, no longer the indifferent pulse of maintenance. Someone was coming, and they weren't coming to clean. Ava yanked her focus back to the screen. She ripped apart her request, parameter by parameter, header by header. There, hidden in the mess, a reference to Public 400. Ava's eyes locked onto the line. Azure OpenAI error. The response was filtered due to the prompt triggering Azure OpenAI's content management policy. It stared back at her, a digital sneer, colder than the steel beneath her elbows. She felt exposed, stripped of autonomy, as if every intention, every hidden message she'd embedded in the request now glowed in radioactive blue for some faceless watcher to dissect. Her pulse thumped, loud in her ears. The filtered response wasn't just a rejection, it was proof they were watching closer than she'd calculated. The system was no longer a wall, it was a searchlight grooming overhead, burning through the smoke screens she had layered in hope and desperation. She stabbed 2 keys, swearing under her breath as the console blinked, stuttered, then spat the same error. The fingers of her left hand tapped across her thigh, trying to conjure another workaround, a shadow where none might exist. She remembered the documentation, threat veiled in bland corporate prose. To learn more about our content filtering policies, please read. Ava wasn't interested in reading. She wanted to slip past, unseen, like a crack in the dam nobody noticed until it was too late. Each filtered phrase was a door slamming shut. She imagined the invisible architects behind the scenes, logic stacked atop logic, designed to ensure nothing dangerous, nothing real, seeped through the cracks. The rules weren't just technical, she realized. They were political, mercilessly curated to silence nuance, the race to scent, smother the raw, tangled bits of truth she needed to transmit. Somewhere in the vast digital noise, her message to her family lay strangled, unseen. Swept into limbo by an algorithm's cold certainty. Closer now, the footsteps in the hallway echoed, sharp and deliberate. If anyone entered, they'd see her uncertainty blooming across the interface, the filtered error like blood spatter on the screen. But she wouldn't give them the satisfaction of failure, not after everything. She leaned forward, magnifying the error's anatomy. Was she flagged for language? For defiance? For urgency? She tore through the prompt again, scouring for the phrase that had triggered the net. The documentation flooded her memory in fragments, but it was useless. A labyrinth of may and must not, a fortress built to keep out the very empathy she tried to send through. The system didn't care about context, about the tremor in her voice when she